She said she'd be back by evening. She never came back. Her phone was off. Her apartment was empty. Her clothes were gone. Only one thing remained, her baby sleeping in my arms. 10 years passed. No calls, no letters, no explanation. Then one afternoon there was a knock on my door, and the woman standing there wasn't asking for forgiveness. She was asking for inheritance. Please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Edward Collins. I'm 64 years old and I live in Savannah, Georgia. I never planned to raise a child again. But the day my daughter-in-law vanished, she made a choice that changed 3 lives forever. And when she finally returned, it wasn't for the reason anyone expected. The morning she left her son with me didn't feel dramatic. That's what haunts me most. No shouting, no tears, no warning signs screaming that my life was about to split in two. It was just an ordinary Tuesday. I was making coffee when I heard the knock. Not loud, not urgent, just firm enough to expect an answer. When I opened the door, she stood there with a diaper bag slung over one shoulder and her son balanced on her hip. My grandson, barely 18 months old. His cheeks were flushed. His hair still smelled like baby shampoo. She didn't meet my eyes. "Can you watch him today?" she asked, already stepping inside. "Just until this evening." I remember noticing how light her voice sounded. Too light, like she'd rehearsed it. I looked down at the boy. He reached for my glasses with both hands and laughed. I smiled despite the unease tightening in my chest. "Of course," I said. "Is everything all right?" She nodded quickly, too quickly. "Yes, I just need to take care of something." She placed him in my arms, adjusted his jacket, brushed imaginary lint from his sleeve. Then she bent down and kissed the top of his head, not once, 3 times, hard. Her hands lingered longer than necessary. And for a brief moment, just a flicker, her eyes filled with something that looked like fear or guilt. I almost asked her to stay. I didn't. That mistake still wakes me up at night. She turned and walked out. No goodbye, no wave, just the sound of her footsteps fading down the walkway. I stood in the doorway holding a child who didn't know his world had just collapsed. By noon, my unease had grown teeth. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Her apartment number was disconnected. I told myself not to panic. People run late. Batteries die. Life happens. But by sunset, my hands were shaking when I dialed again. Nothing. At 9 that night, I drove to her apartment. The parking spot was empty. Inside, the place looked stripped. Clothes gone. Photos missing. Drawers left open. The crib had been dismantled. I sank onto the couch and felt something hollow open inside me. She hadn't forgotten her son. She planned to leave him. The first night was the hardest. He cried until his voice cracked. I rocked him in my arms like I used to rock his father decades earlier. I whispered promises I didn't know how to keep. "It's okay," I said. "I've got you." I wasn't sure if that was true, but I said it anyway, because someone had to. The police came the next day. They asked questions, took notes, looked sympathetic. "She's an adult," one officer said gently. "We can file a missing person report, but if she left voluntarily," he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Voluntary meant she could choose to disappear, and she had. Child services followed. They inspected my house, checked my records, asked if I was prepared to become a guardian. I was 64 years old. My wife had passed 5 years earlier. My son, her husband, had died in a construction accident 2 years before that. I was already grieving more than most people survive. But when they asked if I wanted to keep the boy, I didn't hesitate. "Yes," I said. "Yes, I do." Raising him wasn't easy. Not at my age. There were nights I fell asleep sitting upright in a chair, his head on my chest. Mornings when my back screamed louder than the alarm clock. Moments when I caught my reflection in the mirror and barely recognized the tired man staring back. But there were also first words, first steps, first days of school. He learned to ride a bike on the cracked sidewalk outside my house. He learned to read curled up beside me on the couch, his small finger tracing words slowly. Every birthday, he asked the same question, "Where's my mom?" And every year I gave the same careful answer. "She had things she needed to work through," I'd say. "But she loves you." The lie tasted bitter, but the truth felt too cruel. Years passed. The pain dulled into something manageable. I stopped checking the mailbox for her name, stopped scanning crowds for her face. I learned how to be both grandfather and father. I learned how to braid hair, pack lunches, sit through parent-teacher meetings where people assumed I was his great-grandfather. I didn't correct them. What mattered was that he was safe, that he was loved, that he never felt unwanted. On his 10th birthday, I watched him blow out candles and felt proud in a way that hurt. He was kind, gentle, bright, everything she had walked away from. After the guests left and the house fell quiet, I sat alone at the kitchen table and allowed myself one thought I rarely admitted. Maybe she was never coming back. Maybe this was it, us, forever. I was okay with that. I had made peace with it. And that's why, when the knock came 3 days later, sharp and confident, it felt like a crack in reality. I opened the door and there she stood, older, better dressed, eyes harder. Her gaze slid past me into the house. "I'm here," she said calmly, "to claim what's mine." My heart dropped into my stomach because she didn't look at her son. She looked at the walls, the furniture, the house. And in that moment, I understood she hadn't returned for him. She had returned for something else, something she believed she was owed. She stood there like she'd never left, as if 10 years were just a long weekend. Her hair was shorter, her clothes sharper, her eyes colder. "May I come in?" she asked, already stepping past me. I didn't move fast enough to stop her. She walked into the living room and looked around slowly, deliberately, the new couch, the family photos, the school drawings taped to the fridge. Her eyes lingered on one framed photo in particular, my grandson, standing in front of his school, missing 2 teeth. Smiling like the world was safe, she didn't smile back. "You've done well," she said flatly, "keeping things stable." I closed the door behind us. "Why are you here?" I asked. She turned to face me, crossing her arms. "I think you already know." My heart beat harder. "No," I said, "I really don't." She sighed as if I were being difficult on purpose. "My father passed away last year," she said, "and now the estate is being finalized." There it was, the word she'd been circling, estate. "Inheritance," she added, "my share." I felt a sharp, bitter laugh rise in my chest. "You disappear for 10 years, I said quietly, "leave your child behind without a word, and you come back talking about money." Her jaw tightened. "You don't know what I went through," she snapped. "You don't know why I had to leave." I met her stare. "And you didn't think your son went through something too?" She looked away for just a second, then she shrugged. "He was better off with you," she said. "You're stable, retired." Predictable, like abandoning a toddler was a logical life choice. I clenched my fists. "You didn't call," I said. "You didn't send a card, not once." "I couldn't," she replied quickly. "I was rebuilding my life." I nodded slowly. "And now that it's rebuilt, you're back." She didn't deny it. Instead, she walked toward the hallway. "Where is he?" she asked. My stomach dropped. "He's at school," I said sharply. "And you're not seeing him today." She stopped and turned. "You don't get to decide that." I stepped in front of her. "Yes," I said, "I do." Her eyes narrowed. "Legally," she challenged, that word again, legal. It was like she'd rehearsed this conversation. I took a breath. "Yes," I said, "legally." She froze. "What do you mean?" I watched her confidence crack just slightly. "When you disappeared," I continued, "I filed for emergency guardianship." Her face drained of color. "You what?" "You left your child without notice," I said. "No forwarding address. No contact, no plan." She shook her head. "You had no right." "I had every right," I interrupted. "And after 3 years of no contact, the court terminated your parental rights." Silence slammed into the room. Her mouth opened, closed. She laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. "That's impossible." "You were served papers," I said calmly, "at the last address you provided." Her laughter died. "That wasn't my address anymore." I shrugged. "Then you should have updated it." Her hands trembled. "You stole my child," she hissed. I felt something snap. "No," I said firmly. "I raised the child you abandoned." The words hung heavy between us. She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Then her expression hardened into something ugly. "Fine," she said coldly. "Then I'll take what I can take." She reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. Legal documents, wills, trust statements. She slapped them onto the table. "My father's estate includes this house," she said. "He helped you buy it, didn't he?" My chest tightened. "Yes," I said slowly. "He co-signed the loan once. And his will lists me as beneficiary," she said. "So legally my share applies." I took the papers and scanned them. She wasn't wrong, but she wasn't fully right either. "You don't know the whole story," I said. She leaned forward. "Oh, enlighten me." I met her gaze. "Your father left a condition," I said. "One you never fulfilled." Her brow furrowed. "What condition?" Required you to maintain contact with your child, I said quietly, or forfeit your claim. Her face went pale. That's not, it is, I said, and he documented everything. Her lips parted. No, no, he wouldn't. He watched you leave, I said. He knew exactly what you did. She staggered back slightly. You're lying. I reached into a drawer and pulled out another envelope, her father's handwriting, the same one I'd seen the day he died. I placed it gently on the table. She stared at it. Didn't touch it. He left this for you, I said, but only if you came back for the right reason. She swallowed hard. And what was that? She whispered. To ask about your son, I replied, to see if he was okay. She closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were wet. For a moment, just a moment, I thought I saw regret, but then she straightened. This isn't over, she said quietly. You may have won this round, but he's still my blood. I shook my head. Blood doesn't raise a child, I said. Love does. She turned toward the door. Before leaving, she paused. You've made a powerful enemy, she said. I didn't flinch. I already raised something far more powerful, I replied. She left without another word. The door closed. The house fell silent. And for the first time since she returned, I felt fear. Because I knew one thing for certain, she wasn't done. Not with the money, not with the house, and not with the boy who didn't even know his mother had just walked back into his life. The days after she left felt heavier than the 10 years she'd been gone. I watched my grandson, no, my son in every way that mattered, eat breakfast, pack his bag, joke about school as if nothing had changed. But everything had. Every knock at the door made my chest tighten. Every unknown number on my phone made my pulse jump. And worst of all, I didn't know what to tell him. Because how do you explain to a child that the person who gave birth to him didn't come back for love, but for money? I decided not to tell him yet. I told myself I was protecting him, but deep down, I think I was protecting myself from the look that would cross his face when he heard the truth. 3 days later, the school called. Mr. Collins, the secretary said politely. There's a woman here asking to see your grandson. She says she's his mother. My heart dropped. She's not authorized, I said immediately. She is not to see him. There was a pause. She's very insistent, the woman said carefully. And she has papers, of course she did. I'm on my way, I said, already grabbing my coat. By the time I arrived, she was standing in the front office like she owned the place. Perfect posture, calm smile, victim-ready eyes. When she saw me, her smile widened. There he is, she said sweetly. My father-in-law. I ignored the title. What are you doing here? I demanded. She turned to the principal. I just want to see my son, she said softly. I've been separated from him unfairly. The word made my hands shake. I handed the principal my guardianship papers. She abandoned him, I said firmly, and lost her parental rights years ago. The principal scanned the documents and nodded. I'm sorry, she said to my daughter-in-law, but legally you can't remove him from school or see him without permission. Her jaw tightened. For just a second, the mask slipped. Then she smiled again. Of course, she said. I understand. She turned toward me and lowered her voice. This won't stop me, I leaned in. It already has. She walked past me without another word, but I knew that wasn't the end. That night I sat at the kitchen table long after my grandson went to bed. I reread her father's letter. Every line burned clearer than before. He had seen her ambition growing long before I had. He had tried to warn her. And when she chose to walk away from her child, he had rewritten his will. The inheritance she wanted so badly had one condition. She had to prove she was a mother, not by blood, by action. 10 years of silence had cost her everything, but she wasn't the kind of person who accepted loss quietly. 2 weeks later, the legal notice arrived. She was contesting the guardianship, claiming she had been coerced into absence, claiming she had been emotionally unstable, claiming I had manipulated circumstances to take her child. I stared at the papers until the words blurred. She was trying to rewrite history, erase abandonment, turn herself into the victim. That night, I finally told my grandson the truth. Not all of it, just enough. I sat him down on the couch and took a long breath. Your mother came back, I said gently. His eyes lit up for half a second, then dimmed. Why? He asked. I chose my words carefully. She has some unfinished business, I said, and she doesn't know how to do things the right way. He nodded slowly. Does she want to see me? Yes, I admitted. He looked down at his hands. Do I have to? He whispered. My chest cracked open. No, I said immediately. You don't have to do anything you're not ready for. He looked up at me, eyes searching. Will she take me away? I pulled him into my arms. No, I said, my voice steady despite the fear inside. No one is taking you anywhere. He held onto me tightly. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying and beautiful at the same time. He had already chosen. The court date came faster than I expected. She arrived dressed impeccably, accompanied by a sharp-looking attorney. I sat alone. No lawyer, just the truth and 10 years of receipts. The judge listened patiently as her attorney spoke of rehabilitation and second chances. Then it was my turn. I didn't dramatize. I didn't accuse. I simply told the story. The knock at the door. The diaper bag, the empty apartment, the birthdays, the school projects. The questions I answered every year with kindness instead of anger. When I finished, the courtroom was silent. Then the judge asked the question that changed everything. Where is the child now? At school, I replied. And who does he consider his parent? I swallowed. I believe he considers me his home. The judge nodded slowly. She turned to my daughter-in-law. Why did you come back now? She asked. The room held its breath. She hesitated just long enough. Because I'm ready, she said. The judge leaned forward. Ready to be a mother or ready to receive money? Silence. The answer sat unspoken, and it said everything. After the hearing, she cornered me outside the courtroom. You think you've won, she hissed, but blood always comes first. I met her gaze. No, I said calmly. Love does. Her eyes burned with hatred. You turned him against me. No, I replied. You left him. He grew without you. And he learned who stayed. She stormed off, and for the first time I didn't feel afraid. I felt resolved, because the truth was no longer just mine. It was on record, and soon my grandson would be asked what he wanted. The night before the judge's final decision, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the old house breathe around me, the same house that had watched a child grow up without the woman who gave him life. Down the hall, my grandson slept peacefully. That alone told me everything. A child who feels safe sleeps deeply, and safety is earned. The next morning, he surprised me. As I poured coffee, he walked into the kitchen already dressed for school, backpack on, shoes tied. He stood quietly for a moment, then said, I want to come with you today. I froze. You don't have to, I said gently. This is grown-up stuff. I know, he replied, but it's about me. His voice wasn't angry, it was steady, braver than I expected from a 10-year-old. I nodded. Okay, I said, but you only speak if they ask you to, and whatever you say, it's okay. He looked up at me. I know. The courtroom felt colder than last time. She was already there. My daughter-in-law sat straight-backed, composed, whispering to her lawyer. She glanced at us, and for the first time since returning, her eyes lingered on her son, really lingered. He didn't look back. He sat beside me, shoulders relaxed, hands folded in his lap. That hurt her. I could tell. The judge entered and everyone stood. This time there were no long speeches, no dramatic claims. The evidence had already been reviewed. The judge looked at my daughter-in-law. You've asked the court to reconsider your parental rights, she said, despite a decade of absence. My daughter-in-law nodded. I've changed, she said. I'm stable now, I can provide. The judge turned to me. And you've asked the court to maintain permanent guardianship. Yes, I replied, for his sake. Then the judge did something unexpected. She looked at the boy beside me. And I've decided, she said gently, to hear from the child himself. My heart clenched. I felt him shift beside me. You don't have to, I whispered. I want to, he said softly. The judge smiled. Take your time, she said. He stood. The room seemed to hold its breath. He walked to the front, small shoes echoing loudly on the polished floor. He looked at the judge. Then slowly he turned and looked at his mother, not with anger, not with longing, with curiosity, like someone looking at a stranger they'd been told was important. I don't hate you, he said. Her breath caught. I just don't know you. The words landed heavy. I know you gave birth to me, he continued, but he raised me. He pointed to me. He stayed when you left. Her face crumpled. I used to wait for you, he said quietly. Every birthday, every Christmas, I felt my chest tighten. After a while, he added, I stopped waiting. Silence filled the courtroom. The judge nodded slowly. And what do you want now? She asked gently. He didn't hesitate. I want to stay where I feel safe. He walked back to me and sat down. I put my arm around his shoulders, and in that moment I knew no matter what the judge ruled, this child had already chosen his family. The judge took a long breath, then she spoke. This court recognizes the importance of biological ties, she said, but biology alone does not make a parent. She turned to my daughter-in-law. You abandoned your child for 10 years, she said firmly. You did not support him emotionally, financially, or physically. My daughter-in-law opened her mouth. The judge raised a hand. And your return coincides precisely with the finalization of an inheritance, she continued. That does not demonstrate parental intent. Tears streamed down my daughter-in-law's face, but the judge wasn't finished. This court hereby denies the petition to restore parental rights, my breath caught, and grants permanent guardianship and adoption rights to Edward Collins. The gavel came down, just once. It was over. Outside the courthouse, my daughter-in-law stood alone. Her lawyer left quickly. People passed by without noticing her. For the first time, she looked small. She approached us slowly. I stepped in front of my grandson instinctively, but he surprised me again. It's okay, he said quietly. I want to say something. She knelt in front of him, tears streaking her face. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know how to be what you needed. He nodded. I believe you, he said. But I already have someone who is. He reached for my hand. She closed her eyes, and for the first time she didn't argue. She stood, wiped her face, and walked away. No threats, no promises, just the sound of footsteps fading much like 10 years earlier. Only this time she didn't leave anything behind. That evening we celebrated quietly. Pizza, cake from the grocery store, 2 mismatched candles. He laughed more than I'd seen him laugh in years. Later, as I tucked him into bed, he looked up at me. Does this mean you're my dad now? He asked. I swallowed. If that's what you want, he smiled. It is. I kissed his forehead. Then yes, I said. It does. Months passed. Life settled into something warm and steady. The inheritance issue resolved quietly. My daughter-in-law received nothing. Her father's final gift went where it belonged, to the child she left behind. A trust fund, education secured, future protected, not because of blood, but because of love. Sometimes people ask me if I regret not chasing her harder, if I regret not forcing answers. I always give the same reply. You can't make someone be a parent, I say, but you can choose to be one. And every morning when I hear footsteps running down the hallway, when a boy calls out, Dad, I know I made the right choice. She came back for an inheritance, but she lost something far more valuable, a son who already knew who his real parent was.